U.S. officials are racing against the clock tonight to finalize a deal for a $50 billion loan package for Ukraine using profits from frozen Russian assets. Sources say it is a top priority before President Joe Biden's meeting with G7 leaders in Italy next week. Meanwhile, Ukraine says it's dealt a major blow to Russia when its drones damaged one of Russia's most powerful warplanes, seen here parked at a Russian military base before the attack. The Su-57 is a supersonic stealth fighter that can evade radar, and Russia only has a limited number of the multi-million-dollar jets. Joining us now, CNN contributor and former CNN Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty. Jill, thanks so much for being here. Let's start first with this claim from Ukraine that they hit this jet inside Russia. If true, how significant is it?
Oh, I think it's quite significant. Number one, this really is cutting edge, as you pointed out. It's new. It's the best that the Russians have. And if it's at least damaged, that is significant. And then the fact that they damaged it in Russia, this is located, the spot, the base where they apparently hit it, the Ukrainians hit it, is inside Russia by about 600 kilometers, which would be roughly like 350 miles. And that's significant too. And I think this is really a trend that the Russians are worried about. The Ukrainians are attacking more and more inside Russia and taking the battle to them. And that is very concerning.
And does this have anything to do potentially with the go-ahead that President Biden gave them to use U.S. munitions in, I don't know, in short range to go into Russia? Is that connected at all?
You know, it's part of the, I would say, debate about how far you can go, because there are some of the European allies who think that you should be able to go in. Ukraine should be able to hit Russia. The United States has been much more careful. And so President Biden has been saying you can use weapons, but pretty much only because of this area, the city of Kharkiv, that has been attacked by the Russians a lot, kind of on the border, and you have to be more moderate in how far you go in. It really is a big debate, but you can definitely say that the trend is to allow the Ukrainians to go farther and farther into Russia, and for Putin, that is a real problem because he's tried to, depict it as a war that doesn't really affect the homeland. It's really in Ukraine, and that's not the case.
And Ukraine has stabilized its northern front thanks to more Western weapons. And as we were just talking about, this permission to use them to target positions within Russia. But they're still being stretched pretty thin along the front line. So I'm curious, do you think this potential new funding, this potential $50 billion in loans could help them there?
I think it can help them. There's no question. Especially, you have President Biden talking about another $255 million for ammunition, and that's really what they need. And that would include other things besides ammunition. It would be air defense, munitions, et cetera. That's very, very important. As to, winning the war, turning the tide, it doesn't appear that we're at that stage at all. It's really incremental. But I think we're at a moment where Russia is really fully comprehending that the Ukrainians are intent to take it to them. And that's another step in this war. And I think that's where you have a lot of nuclear threatening by Putin, et cetera. So I think we're kind of in a different stage.
Yeah, it does feel weighty and significant in that way. I do want to get your take, too, on that $50 billion in aid that I just mentioned, that U.S. officials are looking to make a deal with these other G7 leaders to send that to Ukraine. But they want to use profits from these frozen Russian assets. What do you think about that?
Well, this is another big debate because the United States, in fact, President Biden is pushing very strongly right now before the meeting of the G7 that's coming up, I think, June 13th. He is pushing to be able to, it's a little complicated, but to be able to use the interest from those assets that are held in financial institutions in the West, primarily in Europe, use them to help the Ukrainians out. Now, how you do that is a little more complex. It appears what they're going to say is give them a loan, or give them maybe loans, and then they're paid back to the United States and to Europe with the money that Russia has. It's controversial, but that is what Biden and others really want to do, and that's what he's pushing for right now.
All right, we'll see if we can get it done. All right, Jill Doherty, thanks so much. Good to see you.